Hello. I am here today with Meg Forcey of Relax Salt Rooms.
Hello, everyone.
And we are going to talk about salt therapy. This is one of my favorite things. I've been a huge fan for years, and I feel like a lot of people don't really know what it's about. So before we get into what salt therapy is, how did you come to get interested in it in the first place?
So I did my first salt session. It's been 7 years now, 8 years, and I was on vacation with my husband. We were there for a wedding, and we walked down and did a salt session, and I loved it. It helped my psoriasis and anxiety. I do long distance running. It increased my depth of breath, and I also suffer from allergies. And I immediately had relief from a lot of the things that I suffer with or use it for. And so I was like, this is it, I want to do this forever. And so then I subsequently, which was traveling for work at the time, and so the more I traveled, I would just go to different salt rooms as I went, and I just fell more and more in love with it. And I kept waiting for someone to open one closer to where I live, and it wasn't happening. So finally I decided to be that person. So.
Yes, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
little
or at least I will.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I'm glad that you mentioned allergies because that's what actually got me hooked.
Yeah.
I'm a big seasonal allergy sufferer, and because I've moved around every 5 to 10 years, just as my allergies start like settling in, then we move. Mm-hmm. So I found that really helps. So what happens during salt therapy? Because now, we're talking about how much we both love it. What is it? What do you do?
So salt therapy is the act of just sitting back and passively breathing in pharmaceutical grade sodium chloride. So it's a medical grade salt that we're inhaling. A lot of people think we're just sitting in a room of Himalayan salt or Polish salt and breathing that in. And that's not really what we want to do because that salt can potentially have bacteria, halobacterium. And so we don't want to inhale that. We don't want to put that in our respiratory system.
It does make for a very pretty ambiance.
It is a beautiful ambiance, but yeah, we don't want to breathe it in for sure. The colors are calming, the room is very relaxing, but what we want to inhale is something that's been medically created. So it's a pharmaceutical sodium chloride. It's a medical grade salt. It's the same kind we get at the hospital for a wound flush or a saline drip, but this is the dry version. The generator comes on, and then it grinds it down into 1/10 the size of a hair follicle. And so where we in America a lot of times think bigger is better, when it comes to salt, smaller is definitely better. We want that particle to be as small as possible because it works its way into the respiratory system, the sinuses, the lungs. It's anti-inflammatory, and then it will help to thin and break up mucus. But the smaller the particle, the deeper it can go. So we want it as small as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. You definitely don't want to be, inhaling large chunks of anything.
Exactly.
Does it get on you when you're sitting in the salt like that? Like, do you come out covered?
Absolutely. So as you know, you get a nice light dusting of salt on you. It's not a lot. If you have a lot of salt on you, then that's probably too big of a piece of salt to begin with because we want it to be in the air so it works its way into the respiratory system. But you do get a great layer of salt on your body and your skin, which makes it great for things like psoriasis and eczema, rosacea, and acne. And so with those guests, we always say, if there's an area of your body that you want the salt to help, if the salt can't access it, it's not going to have any impact. So we'll have people come in bathing suits because they might have it on their abdomen or their legs. And so they want to make sure that they can get the salt in that spot.
Oh wow, so basically a day at the beach.
Basically 3 days at the beach. It's the equivalent of 72 hours at the beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't have enough time to make it all the way out to the coast because where we are, it's a good hour and a half to the actual beach.
Yeah.
You can just go and spend 45 minutes in the salt room.
Exactly. You get the equivalent of 3 days.
I love it. One of the questions I saw online, people were asking if you could read in the salt room, and I know I love to bring a book in, and then it's basically like a day at the beach.
Yeah, so you can absolutely bring a book in. The lighting is kind of dim, so you need to be closer to the salt wall, as you know. We don't allow any electronics because salt is corrosive, so no phones, no
Kindle, I've got it.
Yeah, but an actual book or a magazine you can absolutely bring in.
I'm a sucker for old school books. I mean, I love my audiobooks and technology for a lot of things, but when I'm reading, I love to be able to open up
and smell the pages.
Oh yes. I love it. So you said it does destroy technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I've seen you go through, I don't even know how many flashlights.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a period of time, this new brand that we have is lasting a little bit longer, but there was a period of time that I was going through a flashlight a month, just bringing it in to show people the salt at the end, and it was getting really frustrating. frustrating. So, but this one seems to be having a little more stay power than the others did, so I'm grateful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most like impressive moments of the session is when Meg comes in at the end and uses the light of the flashlight to show you all the salt that's in the air, because it doesn't feel as thick as it is when you're in there.
Yeah.
And it's not full force the whole session, right?
Right. So the salt comes up nice and slowly at the beginning because otherwise it can trigger a cough, and we don't want to have someone have like a coughing attack in the middle of the session. And then it peaks in the middle, and then at the end it starts to come down because again, as we transition from in the salt to out of the salt, we don't want to create that cough from the transition of air. It's a little different for me coming in the room with the flashlight. A lot of times I have to like center myself for a minute or try to, because I am getting like full force salt in the face walking in the room.
Oh yeah.
And if you're sitting in the chair, you've had time to adapt to it, so you don't realize how much salt is even in the air at the end when it's coming down. But I have to sit there for a second and try to like swallow and breathe so I don't cough when I'm talking. Try not to cough when I'm talking to people. But yeah, it gives your body time to adapt, and it doesn't feel super oppressive or thick. It just feels like a nice light aerosol of salt filling the space, because your body has time to adapt to it that way.
So I know one of my favorite things about salt therapy, I don't know if I've told this to you or not, but it's really cool how it's a good intersection between like the crunchy stuff and the science.
Oh, it's great.
And I love how you really straddle that, because you got all the science knowledge to back you up, but then you also have like crystals and fun things in your shop too.
Yeah, we love the science and we love the research. So we're really big on that. My husband is a scientist, and so he has a PhD in biology, and so we're really big on that. And my sister and my brother-in-law all have PhDs.
Wow.
So before we even opened, I was like, everybody take a scientific study and double down on reading these before I open, because I don't want to get into this and then be like, have a curveball. So we're really big on the scientific studies, but then we also, at least at our shop, we're big advocates of everyone just having their own space and their own voice and their own feelings. And so it's a nice intersection, because it gives people who love the science and the research behind it a space to also have a little bit of spirituality and peace sometimes if they want it, and they don't have to have that either. You can come in and do the work and leave, that's absolutely okay. But then as Caitlyn leads our guided meditations for us, so we do things like that, we'll do singing bowls, and so it's a nice cross, I agree.
Yeah, and it's really cool how people can either just come and sit and either bring their book or come with a friend and chat, or attend an event. So I know I've led guided meditations around the crystals or the full moon.
Yes.
You have somebody doing breath work, singing bowls. I always see your events, and you've got such a good variety.
I get bored so easily, so we're always mixing it up. We're just always mixing it up. Plus, it's a fun space to do different things in. So a lot of times I'll be like, that would be really cool to do in here, and maybe we just do it once and see how it goes. But it's worth trying out to see and see how receptive people are to it. So
yes, running the experiment. That's what we call it in our house.
Yeah.
You're like, you gotta run the experiment.
Yeah, and truthfully, I don't get to, because I'm running the machine a lot of times, I don't get to be in the space. So a lot of times I'll facilitate things that I would love to do myself.
Yes.
And I don't get to be in there necessarily, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. It's so fun. So I get excited about doing it for other people.
Oh, that's totally like the facilitator's dilemma.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I'm like, this is the meditation. I'm gonna lay on the floor and receive.
Exactly.
I'm like sitting up and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you just want to make that happen give that gift to someone else, because it's such a special gift in your brain and your soul. Like, you want to be able to gift that to someone. So yeah, I agree completely.
Oh, and so speaking of new things, I want to hear more about your infrared sauna.
Oh,
because I haven't been over yet to experience it.
Yeah, so I say a lot of times the things that we have in the shop are very selfish, because they're things that I love so much.
I love it.
And so sauna definitely folds under that. My husband and I have been doing a lot of research into sauna in the last year or two, and the benefits that it has. And there are a lot of things that you'll see in advertising that are truthfully great sauna benefits, but they're very topical. Like one sauna session for 30 minutes can burn anywhere from 200 to 600 calories. It can take down inflammation in the body. It can help with a bunch of different things. You're sweating out toxins and metals. But long term, one of the reasons that we've become so interested in it is because of the health research as far as heart health coming out of Finland, and how it can decrease the chance of heart attacks, and also the overall impact of Alzheimer's. So if you have lineage with like a heart disease or an Alzheimer's, doing a sauna a couple times a week is a really easy way to help mitigate that later on in life for you. And so both of us have things like that in our lineage, and so it became more apparent to us that it's something we needed to be doing. So putting it in the shop was just the best thing, because now,
I love it.
I know, now I get to selfishly do it myself also.
Yes, that's how the best things come out,
So,
like
yeah.
you were saying.
But we see a lot of guests in the salt room for things like mold, to treat mold. And so now we're seeing those guests also transition over to sauna, because with helping to heal mold exposure, the sauna is really great as well, because it helps sweat all those toxins out of the body.
Oh, I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, so it's been.
How much do you sweat? Like, do you come out like drenched?
So everyone's going to be different. Some people might not even sweat during a sauna session, and that is totally okay and normal. Your body takes time to adapt to everything. All of our bodies react differently to things like salt and sauna, massage, meditation, just like they do to exercise and medicines. Each one of us is individual. So some of us might profusely sweat. And I've noticed with my own body, I also do intermittent fasting. If I am in a fast and I go in the sauna, which I don't recommend for everyone unless you're really great at fasting already. Like, you've already been practicing fasting for a while.
Yeah, this isn't a new thing for you.
Yeah.
You didn't start fasting last week.
Exactly. I wouldn't hop in there then, but I've noticed myself that if I'm in a fast and I'm towards the end of my fast, that I will actually sweat substantially more than if I've been eating for the day. So it just really depends.
Does it correlate to like how you sweat going outside? I know it's really hot here, so if you're like sweaty outside, are you a sauna sweater, or does that?
Yeah, it does actually help with temperature regulation in our Florida heat. So it's great for that. And the other thing that it's been helping with, for me personally, is hot flashes. Sorry, I'll bring that up on your podcast, but it has been real. I noticed a huge difference. I skipped the sauna last week because my husband was traveling for work and I had to get back for the dog. And so I do it after we close. So I had to skip it last week, and all of a sudden I started having hot flashes again, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get back in the sauna. But it's really helped with that for me too. So.
Oh man, that's like almost counterintuitive. I would not have expected that, but I love it.
Yeah, so because it raises your core temperature, so it's also great for things like preventing sickness, because you're basically convincing your body that it is sick, so your body's trying to fight off the extra heat, and so it helps with your immunity and things like that. And apparently hot flashes, which I am here for.
Yes, that's like one of those things where people are like, oh, good luck, and
I know.
if there's something that helps, why not? Oh my goodness, I love it. So people would need to shower after.
So we don't have a shower at our facility, and there are places that do. We usually recommend waiting 30 to 40 minutes. I personally continue to sweat, and I don't know why you would want to stop the progress of the work you're doing. If your body's going to continue to sweat afterwards, even if where you are going has a shower currently, if you are not doing circuit training, which is hot, cold, then I would recommend giving yourself a 30 to 40 minute cool down so that your body continues to do that work, because it's going to keep sweating afterwards. So we usually recommend wearing loose clothing and then cooling down naturally, and then showering after your body has naturally cooled off. If you are doing something like circuit training where you're going from hot, cold, which we don't have cold in our facility, then definitely you want to shower before getting in a cold tub that someone else will be using in the future, because that's just polite. So for sure you want to take a shower in between that, yeah.
So I love that. So manners and common sense.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So going back to what we started talking about, which is the salt therapy, are there any like manners, like things that you would recommend around that?
So yeah, there's a lot of manners. So we don't allow shoes or bare feet on the salt. So we insist that everyone wear socks or booties, medical booties that we provide.
Put those dogs away.
Exactly.
I think that's what the kids say.
Is that what the kids say?
Or no, they say something about like your dogs are out.
Oh.
When your feet are bare.
I live in such a bubble of like my own life. I have no idea what the kids are saying.
If any Gen Zers are listening to this, please help us.
I know. We need help with our socks too. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, true. There's a big salt to buy. Or sock to buy.
So we recommend that, and then also just common courtesy when we're in the salt room, because it is so meditative. There's music playing, a little fountain that comes on and off, would be to limit talking during a session, and just to be courteous to anyone else who's in the room. Obviously, if it's you and your person, you can chat it up. There's no one that you're bothering. But if there are other guests in the room, we're all in for different experience, and some of us are in for personal meditation, and some of us are in for the health benefits. So we just ask that everyone just be respectful of each other in that way, and then arriving on time so that we're not holding up other guests, because we run on a very strict schedule. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, you were saying how you have to prepare yourself to walk it at the end. You obviously don't want people coming in late.
Right, and then after every session, we run an exhaust system that pulls all of the air out of the space and circulates in fresh air through a filtration system for our guests with cystic fibrosis, so that each time there's fresh air in the space. And that takes a good bit of time too. So I think people sometimes think, oh, what's the big deal if we're starting, 5 minutes behind schedule? But the big deal is that we need to purify the air after every session. So we really have to stay on schedule.
Now, is that something you added in as a result of COVID, or?
We actually had that prior to COVID, and it was
Look at you.
we were quite lucky because of it. I mean, it was a necessary thing because our guests with cystic fibrosis, it's very difficult. They can get very sick from going in.
Oh yes.
One cystic fibrosis guest after another, coming into the space after another. So purifying the air in between was just the right thing to do for those guests. And then also sometimes people may think with the best of intentions that they have allergies, but in reality they may be sick. And we ask for guests not to come in when they're actively sick, because we have so many guests that are high risk. But just in case someone does come in thinking it's something else, but then it ends up actually being a cold, the air is being pulled out and everything's being cleaned in the space that way as well. So it's just a little extra precaution.
Yes, and I mean, why not err on the side of caution?
For sure. But it was definitely great during COVID to be able to say we actively already had that in place, so that we could make people feel more reassured.
I know your space was one of the first spaces I felt comfortable coming back to for group activities.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, I know you take a lot of care with keeping everything clean, and just a lot of care.
Yeah, and there's really great research which we can't actively share yet because it's still ongoing in Canada at one of the universities. And we were lucky enough during COVID to have a Zoom call with the gentleman who is running that study about how long your breath and viruses actively last in the air when you're exhaling them in the salt room, and it is not very long at all. So I can't wait for that study to come out. It's anywhere from 3 to 8 seconds when you exhale, so there's no time for whatever you're breathing out to get to the person in the seat. 3 to 4 feet away from you, which is because I was actively so stressed every day. I'm sure we all were.
Of course.
But I was like, what? Because we have some guests who come in with very serious things like lung cancer or blood clots in the lungs, and I was like, what if I make this person more sick? And it was so stressful. And so Zooming with him just was really very calming, because I was like, okay, this is active research that's being done in a university, and I feel so much more confident now that things are, I'm not going to really hurt anyone, hopefully. So,
Right.
I mean,
and you're still taking all your precautions,
of course,
yeah.
But yeah, it was just one more peace of mind for myself that the salt was doing its job. So that's good.
Wonderful. So, let's end with like one of your favorite recent memories, like something that really made you be like, this is why I'm doing this, like either something somebody said or one of your experiences.
There's so many, and you're gonna make me cry. I love helping people. I love when people come in and we're a safe space for them, but more than that, and that's a hard more, because I really do love when people come in just for the peace of mind in a loss or something like that, and they seek us out. That's amazing. I love when you can physically see someone's medical reaction to a session. Meaning, we have 2 guests, which I have permission to speak about all these guests. Let me just say that in advance. I would never talk about someone's personal case without their permission. I have 2 guests who have eye inflammation, and they come in and it's almost like a gel in the eye, and you can see it when they push on the side of the eye. Their eye is almost bulging a little bit, and they go in the salt room, and the inflammation is gone when they come out, and it's amazing to see that in real time in 45 minutes. And then this week we had a guest this last week, and she's like, tell everyone, I want to tell everyone. And she's suffering long COVID, and she's been in and out of the hospital, and she had a port in her arm when she came in because she's been in and out so much, and nothing has helped. She's been on tons of steroids, and she did 1 salt session. She hasn't slept more than 2 hours in over a month. She went home that night and slept for 6 hours straight, and her sister was visiting, and she was shocked also at how well she did. So she's been coming back because with long COVID, really only like 3 or 4 sessions a lot of times will help just get it out of your system and increase lung capacity. So, I mean, she is like 1 session, and she was almost crying at the desk, and I was almost crying. So it was just so emotional.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
I know, just amazing.
I love that.
Salt heals. Not everything, but it does a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, and so even if you don't have a medical reason, it's still a good way to relax. And there's been so much research on, as a mindfulness meditation instructor, just being able to be in a relaxed state for 45 minutes is profoundly healing and supportive. So even if you've got nothing going on, still good benefits to being in there. And I know you mentioned mold and all of that. It's so damp outside right now. Yeah. So anything to help us breathe here in Central Florida.
Definitely.
Oh,
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Meg. So
Thanks for having me.
where can people find out more about your salt room?
So you can visit us at relaxsaltrooms.com and get more information. And then if you're interested in the medical research, we have a page for that on our website as well. So you can definitely dive into the latest research on there. I try to keep up with it as much as possible. And then we're here in Gainesville, Florida, off of 39th Avenue in Magnolia Park.
Wonderful. And check the description of wherever you're listening to this, and I will have those links there as well.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Caitlyn.
Thank you so much, Meg.
I appreciate you.